Previously, on the world of Wanana, Groz, Ruku, and Salal adventured in search of Nemeia, the pink tiefling girl. They arrived at a tavern where they were served food by Nemeia. The food had some magical properties that made most feel sensations of happiness. However, the food made Ruku enter another vision. This time, just a short time before the magic barrier was erected by the 7 legendary heroes. When Ruku came to, the bar was attacked by a shadow mage and its shadow beasts. The heroes managed to fend off against the shadow mage thanks to Nemeia's power-boosting meal. However, they were sure it wouldn't be the last they saw of this mage. Nemeia has joined the heroes, and they are on their way back to Bruhaven University, where Orm awaits them with important news. Now, without further ado, here is Chapter 6, The Secrets of the Scholar. On the journey back to Bruhaven, and within the borders of the Land of Elves, the heroes find themselves fending off against a variety of creatures who could only have originated from the land of monsters. A horse beast with a strong frame and its mane and hooves on fire. A floating purple creature emitting toxic gas that could disappear without a trace. And a living plant with piercing eyes, razor-sharp fangs, and thick vines greater than any flora creature that lived in this region of the world. They were all easily handled thanks to the combined powers of Groz, Nemeia, Ruku, and Salal. After their latest battle, Ruku stood there realizing just how far he had come on his journey. He began his journey scared of the burden from facing his destiny. Now, he couldn't be more at peace as he connected with his comrades, friends he only just met but felt connected to as though he had known them his whole life. The heroes arrived in Bruhaven and quickly met up with Orm and Professor Thanalos in Orm's office. When I left, you were a level 2 mage. It's only been 2.5 months, and you already have your own office? You must be a big deal, Orm. Orm bellowed with laughter and responded, Ruku, I'm now a level 20 earthen mage. I completed a lot of training and researched a great many things while you were away. I'm now one of the leading experts at the university on magical artifacts. That's impressive, Orm. I'm happy for you. Tell me, Ruku, what level are you now? Well, after all the fighting we've done on our return trip here, I've reached level 43. I never could keep up with you, Ruku. Ruku's memories around Orm were still very incomplete. He knew they had been best friends for many years. He has the memory of when they first met, and yet there were still many things that were unclear, like missing puzzle pieces of key events from his memories. This was the complete opposite for Ruku when he encountered the other heroes on his journey. He would be flooded with visions and memories from 1,000 years ago, and be filled with emotions and familial bonds sometimes before he met them. Ruku wasn't quite sure what all this meant, and so he laughed politely back at Orm. Professor Thanalos slithered his way next to Orm. Orm, it may be time to address the reason you have gathered the heroes. Of course, Professor. The reason I've called you back to Bruhaven is because I need to share with you what I have uncovered about the prophecy through my research. What prophecy? The one Ruku explained to us when we first met. It was about the weakening barrier, my friend. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I do vaguely remember Ruku saying something along those lines when I first met you. I guess I never explained all of it to you. My memories jumped at me quickly that day and I forgot. Are you still having trouble with your memories, Ruku? Can we please focus? Professor Thanalos gave everyone a stern look, and they all lowered their heads and apologized. As some of you may know, Professor Thanalos is one of the keepers of the prophecy. 3 families 1,000 years ago were entrusted with the prophecy. That is to say, this prophecy was so important that it was divided into 3 scrolls to be kept separated for fear that the information could fall into the wrong hands. Professor Thanalos took out a scroll from under his robes and read his part of the prophecy to the heroes. This is the reason all those monsters were attacking my village, attacking all the villages we've seen on our way here. That is correct, Groz. How do we fix the barrier? In my research, I was able to determine the 2nd family entrusted to the keepers of the prophecy. I journeyed to the land of gnomes in search of the 2nd scroll. However, I discovered that the last surviving member of the family died a few years ago. So that means we are no closer to finding out how to fix the barrier. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, my friend. Let the dwarven mage continue. I stayed in town and began asking some questions, and one thing led to another, and as it turns out, someone saw the keeper speaking with the young serpent girl. The keeper gave the young girl a scroll. The scroll of the prophecy was given away? That part is true. But from what I could gather, the serpent girl is the final keeper of the prophecy, and was entrusted with the other scroll. You're joking. Not at all. As it so happens, I was able to track her down with some help from one of Professor Thanalos' premonitions. We were able to send out an oracle call.
Did she respond to your call, lad?
She did. Her name is Yaotal. We've invited her to join us. She will be arriving sometime today. Ruku began having visions at the sound of the name Yaotal. A floating green image in his mind began swirling around and coming into focus as a Gorgon from the serpent race. In the vision's hands were a map and a sword, and behind the Gorgon were several bookshelves. When Ruku opened his eyes, he was met by several stares. How long had Ruku been standing there this time? Sorry guys. I had another vision. I think we'll be able to find Yaotal waiting for us in the library downstairs. How do you figure? It's a strong feeling I have. Yaotal arrived at Bruhaven 2 hours before the heroes did. She came to the city because she received an oracle call from Orm and Professor Thanalos. Professor Thanalos proved that he was one of the keepers of the prophecy, and it piqued Yaotal's interest, especially when it was mentioned that the heroes of legend would be arriving in Bruhaven. Without hesitation, she accepted their request to meet in the land of elves. Yaotal took in the sights of the esteemed university with its magnificent architecture, magical creatures, and skilled mages. Yaotal slithered through the campus unseen from the shadows. In her day-to-day life, she is a ranger. Her job is to blend in with her surroundings, navigate through difficult terrain, and track down creatures and sometimes people across vast distances. Traveling through the town unnoticed was like breathing for Yaotal. She occasionally took out her sketchbook as she took in the city and began drawing things that caught her eye and took detailed notes along the side. From the top of the great oak tree, Yaotal was able to see the heroes enter the campus. She followed them unseen to one of the university buildings. From her distance, she could sense the power emanating from the group. When the group walked in, Yaotal followed behind them. When she entered the building, she noticed the heroes heading upstairs into one of the rooms. Yaotal was heading in the direction of the room when a sign saying Bruhaven's Great Library caught her eye on the bottom level, and she found herself going in that direction. About an hour later, Ruku, Orm, Professor Thanalos, and the other heroes entered the library. It was then that Ruku saw Yaotal standing by the open window near a tall bookshelf. Yaotal was wearing black and gold armor on top of a green shirt. She had golden bracelets on each hand and a black mask. Yaotal had magenta-colored hair covering her left eye and magenta-colored snakes on top of her head. I've heard stories of Gorgons. Perhaps we should avert our gaze. Ruku heard the nervousness in Salal's voice. However, something inside of Ruku told him that everything would be fine. Don't be silly, Salal. Yaotal doesn't have petrification magic. Another one of your famous feelings, my friend? Yes. Yaotal placed the book she was reading down on the table in front of her. The snakes on her hair began to scan the heroes, and then at Orm, who walked over to her. Yaotal, thank you for coming. Allow me to introduce
the heroes of legend.
How did you know?
There's much we need to discuss, but first, let's address the reason you called me here today.
Yaotal grabbed 2 old scrolls from underneath one of the snakes on her head and hands them to Orm.
I'm very interested in knowing the full prophecy.
Professor Thanalos hands Orm the prophecy written on his scroll. The full prophecy reads, after 1,000 years, the magic barrier will begin to fail, and the 7 heroes will be called to action to protect the world. The heroes will gather themselves in the sacred items of the past to conduct the ritual. Peace will return to the world after a great sacrifice is made from the hero out of... It looks like the last part of the prophecy has faded.
Interesting. The first part of the prophecy has already taken place. Clearly the heroes have been gathering, and the monster sightings clearly explain how the barrier surrounding the land of monsters is failing.
That's right. The second part has got me confused. Yaotal, do you have any clues about the sacred items or the ritual mentioned in the prophecy?
The ritual plot should be obvious. It probably alludes to the original spell the heroes used to put up the barrier. The difficult part will be to determine what spell they used and the location of the spell.
That makes sense about the ritual. What about the items?
I'm not sure what would be considered sacred items. Could they be items imbued with magical properties, perhaps?
If that is the case, then perhaps my golden compass is one such item. It has pointed us in the direction of all the heroes thus far.
If that were the case, then each hero would have an item like that.
Ruku and Salal, great work. You might be right. Salal has the golden compass. What if the sacred items were hidden in your visions, Ruku? You told me before you met Salal that you had a vision of a purple swirling image holding a compass.
That's right.
But I also had a vision of a red swirling image with a tattoo before I met Groz.
But how could a tattoo be a sacred item? And with Nemeia, I saw her with an apron. How could that be considered a sacred item?
Well, I guess they wouldn't be.
I need you to pause for a moment and explain these visions. Ruku, are you a seer or possess clairvoyant magic?
Not exactly. I'm a fire mage. I don't know why, but I've been having visions of each of these heroes, and occasionally have these strong memories from living 1,000 years ago. It's how I knew where to find you, and how I know you aren't like the other Gorgons. Ruku is very vital to the mission of gathering the remaining heroes. He has been able to locate 3 other heroes.
Master Dwarf, you say the word other as though he were one of them himself. How strange.
Salal, Groz, Nemeia, and Orm all stepped in to defend Ruku. They all recounted moments when Ruku's abilities far exceeded his level when it came to fighting off creatures from the land of monsters. They spoke about times when Ruku knew them better than they knew themselves, and they talked about the strange bond of trust from the moment they met each other. Yaotal stared at them deeply invested as they spoke. When they had finished, Yaotal slithered over to Ruku.
I'm intrigued by you, Ruku. I have something I'd like to show you if you'll allow me to.
I trust you, Yaotal. After all, you are one of the legendary heroes. Everyone stopped and looked at Ruku. Then they looked over at Yaotal.
How did you know? I never mentioned that I was.
I had a vision of you. You were a swirling green image floating around in my head until I heard your name for the first time.
Did you say green?
Yes. Why?
What about when you met these heroes here? You said Groz was red. What colors did you see for the other 2?
Salal was a swirling purple image, and Nemeia was a swirling pink image in my visions. Again, I ask you why. Yaotal closed her eyes and placed her left hand up.
Let me show you my ancestral magic.
When she opened her eyes, traces of magical energies began swirling around the heroes. Salal had traces of purple energy surrounding him. Likewise, Nemeia had pink energy, Groz had red energy, and Yaotal had green energy surrounding them. The energy glowed brightly against the walls and floor. Ruku looked at Orm and Professor Thanalos, who had no energy surrounding them. Professor Thanalos pointed at Ruku, and his jaw dropped. Ruku looked down at his arms and noticed that there was no energy coming off him.
My ancestral magic allows me to see certain connections between the past, present, and future. We are emitting energy because we have been reincarnated. These are the energies attached to the souls of the heroes of legend. I'm afraid you don't have one because you are not a hero of legend.
Ruku stared at Yaotal, and then at the others. Yaotal, do me a favor. Your magic can connect the present with the past. I need you to use your magic on me and project to everyone my connection to the past. It is there that you'll see that I am one of the heroes of legend.
I've never tried that before.
You have. You just don't remember it. I believe in you, Yaotal. After all, you are always the most inquisitive of us all. You're always keeping notes and detailed drawings in your sketchbooks as we traveled across Wanana. You were a swords master, but arguably more masterful with the quill and ink. The snakes on her head began to look at each other and then back at Ruku in surprise. Nobody knew about her drawings and notes. It was something she had always kept to herself. It was part of the reason she liked keeping a distance in the shadows. Something inside of her began to shift. Yaotal began looking at Ruku differently, as though she had known him her whole life. Ruku closed his eyes, cleared his mind, and calmed his heart. Yaotal raised her hand and cast her ancestral magic over Ruku. At first, nothing happened. Then, floating images began appearing above him. They saw Groz and Ruku laughing on the ground together after a tough sparring session. Nemeia was smiling very hard as Ruku was digging into a meal she prepared for him. Salal was singing while flying in the sky as Ruku flew beside him using his fire magic. Yaotal was in a vision with Ruku looking at an ancient map, planning how they would enter the land of monsters and put up the magic barrier. The images began to glow a bright orange hue, and then slowly faded in the air as Ruku began opening his eyes. The room was quiet. Groz, Nemeia, and Salal all began to feel tears running down their eyes. The memories they witnessed of themselves from 1,000 years ago triggered the emotional response. They finally got to see for themselves the visions Ruku would have, and because of it, they felt even more closely bonded to him.
I don't know what to say. You're obviously one of the legendary heroes, Ruku. I'm sorry I doubted you.
Honestly, it's okay, Yaotal.
I would like to join you and the others on your quest, Ruku. Perhaps together we can decipher the second part of the prophecy.
I would like that very much, Yaotal.
Great. Oh wait, before I forget, I found this ancient map on my travels. It looks a lot like the one from your vision.
Ruku grabbed the map and was instantly thrown into another of his visions. This time, he saw a swirling blue image with a necklace. When he came to, his finger was touching a spot that would be present-day Land of Fishmen. I guess by now you guys believe me when I say, I know where we have to head next. I really hope you guys like this one. There was so much art in it, and I'm so excited about the story and the art and how it all turned out in this one. The heroes are almost all assembled, which I think is really cool. I've only got 2 more heroes to add to the roster, and I think you'll enjoy the way that they are introduced. The next chapter will be more action-packed to balance out the story, so if you are looking for a big battle scene, then the next one is the one for you. Don't forget, I have a community redraw that is currently active. You can submit your artwork for the current one showing on the screen. The submission date is July 24th. I'll be trying something new on the channel and need at least 3 submissions for this idea that I have planned. That's all for me. As always, I'm Drawing with Mr. S, and I'll see you in the next video. Y'all take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye-bye.